Hey D group leaders, I hope you had a great night last night with your kids with the first week in our host homes. This week we're going to be looking at the second chapter of the serving books as the basis of our discussion. There's 3 passages of scripture that I'm going to want us to be looking at this week. And from those 3 passages of scripture, there's really going to be one key take-home message for the night. The first passage is Mark 10:42 through 45. Looking in the book, one of the questions that it has off this passage was really appealing to me. And it was basically asking for a reaction from the statement, Christians love talking about being a servant until someone treats them like one. I think this could be a really interesting introduction to the conversation because it's obviously a really challenging statement. It's something that kind of eats at a genuine believer when we hear that because we don't want it to be true about us, but sadly, many times it can be. So I would suggest to start off by reading the passage and then reading the statement and just asking for the kids' reaction of the statement. Then we can move into Philippians 2:1 through 8. This will be our major scripture passage for the night. And from this will come the major take-home message for the night as well. The major take-home message for this Wednesday will be, if we claim to be followers of Christ, servitude must be the cry of our heart. And as far as your whole discussion for the night goes, this is really where I want us to land on. A couple of questions you may want to use from this scripture, from this passage, is what are some ways that you could personally serve others at school? And what are some ways that our D group could serve others at the yard? If you're at the conference on Saturday, one of the tips that Chap Clark gave is relating the material that you talk about in youth ministry to a specific area of the kids' lives. I like both of these questions because one relates to them personally at school with their peers, and the other relates to them as a whole, as a D group at the yard. Both of these questions could really get them thinking about whether or not they're being servants and having a servant's heart at school and at the yard, and how they can improve if they're not. The third passage is Matthew 6:2 through 4. And a couple of questions that I got from this is, what should our motives be for serving others? And how can we know what our real motives are? I think this can lead to a very interesting discussion. I think motives are something that are really hard to know even of ourselves sometimes. And so it'll be really interesting to see what the kids have to say about that. So have a great week and let us know if you have any questions.